Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're using a really fun Tornadus Kyogre team. Now, I know we featured Tornogre just a couple of episodes back with Santee's Players Cup 25th Invitational winning team, and this is just a slightly different take on Tornogre that I think is also really strong. This was kind of the standard Tornogre build before Santee won the 25th Invitational, which features Mystic Water Kyogre or Sea Incense Kyogre rather than that Choice Scarf. So this was built by a German player called Chulainn. I've linked their Twitter down in the description below, as well as a rental and a paste, courtesy of them. And as you can see, pretty standard stuff in terms of Pokemon, but there's some really cool stuff, like the AV on the Tsareena with Payback. You often see High Jump Kick, for example, but Payback is valuable into Calyrex Shadow Rider. You've also got classic Mystic Water Kyogre, Focus Sash Tornadus. Santee's Tornadus, of course, was a bit bulkier. This is just faster paced and with the Focus Sash, and also has Protect. Even though there's a Tsareena on the team, the Protect can still be valuable in matchups in which you don't bring the Tsareena. Pretty standard Incineroar set here, and then finally the Naganadel with Safety Goggles and the Life Orb Thunder. The main reason I wanted to feature this team was actually because of the Naganadel. Really interesting pick, and actually does really well into a lot of things that typically counter Kyogre. Things like Rillaboom or Regieleki, for example. Naganadel can wall relatively well. It's not the bulkiest Pokemon, but if you don't have super effective damage into it, then you can actually take attacks decently well. And Naganadel can certainly take those grassy glides well from something like Rillaboom or electric type attacks from Regieleki. Safety Goggles is also really cool. This gives you better answers into Amoonguss, which sometimes can be an annoying Pokemon to play against. And it also just helps out in general into the Xerneas matchup. A lot of Xerneas players typically will like to just go for Rage Powder and Geomancy. With the Tsareena and the Safety Goggles, it's hard to deny Naganadel a free Sludge Bomb onto Xerneas turn 1, right? You can't click Fake Out safely into Naganadel, because Tsareena can just switch in, and you also can't Rage Powder away from Naganadel with the classic, users like Volcarona or Amoonguss, because Safety Goggles will just ignore that. And so Xerneas, as you can see, can sometimes be a tough matchup for Kyogre teams, and we don't have a single Fairy resist with this one. And so Naganadel specifically will be very important in going up against Xerneas, so we'll see if we actually face any in our time with the team. And then finally, Life Orb Regieleki. So many Elekis in the format are Focus Sash right now, but Tornadus already has the Sash, and Life Orb just allows you to deal so much more damage, especially when you use Thunder as well. Thunder obviously not seen typically on non-Rain Team Kyogre, or non-Rain Team Elekis, but given that you're setting up the raid with Drizzle and Kyogre here, it's going to be a lot more consistent, and you just get a huge amount of burst damage that otherwise your opponents wouldn't be expecting, right? And think about the difference between a Focus Sash Regieleki with Thunderbolt versus a Life Orb Regieleki with Thunder, right? That is a big jump and increase in damage output. So excited to try out another take on Tornogre and see how Naganadel is in this format. Even if we don't go up against Xerneas, I think Naganadel in general is just pretty cool because it matches up well into a lot of anti-Kyogre Pokemon. So I expect to be bringing out a bunch, and so we'll see how it plays out. But thanks once again to Chulainn for the team. Thanks to you all as always for watching. If you enjoy, please show support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I kind of want to know what your least favorite or legendary Pokemon is, or what you think is the worst, and that can be in terms of competitiveness, design, anything. You come up with it. So let me know in the comment section below, and let's get started. Okay, getting into things here. That's a really interesting Eternatus team. There's Lucario and Grimmsnarl. Okay, I'm pretty excited just to see what the team does, because it's actually been a very long time since we fought Eternatus. Now, interestingly enough, we're using something that's very similar to Eternatus in the Naganadel. And Naganadel can obviously deal massive amounts of damage to it. So Naganadel is a must bring here, I think. We've got super effective hits into 4 of the 6 on my opponent's side. Reno does have AV. Water Spout here is pretty good from Kyogre, but Rillaboom and Naganadel are going to be the main 2 things that resist it. So I think it's Tornogre, Naganadel, and then Tsareena. Those 4 make the most sense to me, because Incineroar's Intimidate's not that valuable in this matchup, and Aleki gets walled by Lando, Rilla, and the Naganadel, or sorry, the Eternatus. Then it's really a question of what I want to lead with. Torn plus Tsareena guarantees me Tailwind, so I think I'm down for that, and then Kyogre and Naganadel in the back. Yeah, Eternatus in general was something that I was expecting, honestly, to see more of in the opening weeks of this format, but we haven't actually run into it too much. We obviously used the Eternatus Togedemaru team earlier, which was really fun, but it's definitely, yeah, a little bit more niche than I actually really anticipated, because a lot of people were using it in the opening, like before Series 10 had started, and in some of those grassroots events that we had covered. So pretty cool to just go up against Eternatus. And yeah, it's always a question, are you Power, Meteor Beam? Are you Cosmic Power? I'm gonna go Grimmsnarl Landorus, which I'm actually very okay with because you can't go for Prio Fake Out right now, and this is a super free Tailwind into Triple Axle. You would think Landorus is gonna want to protect or switch out here, and their best switch in would be Incin, but like, would you really bring Incin into this matchup? It feels relatively unlikely, to be honest. We actually also don't necessarily need a Tailwind because I can Icy Wind. It's just a question of whether or not I outspeed after an Icy Wind speed drop. I think we do, right? The reason for this is so I can stagger Tailwind and get an extra turn out of it. I guess they could be Scarf Naganadel, or sorry, Scarf Lando. Okay. It is probably safer to just Tailwind here in case they have some like really crazy surprises here. No need to stagger that importantly in this game. Grim's gonna switch out. And into Eternatus. Yeah, I mean, right now, if Incineroar is not coming in, like, what is your Tsareena answer? Doesn't seem like there's a really reliable one at the moment. And they don't even protect Landorus, so if we just hit these triple axles, we're in an amazing shape. Okay, first one is going to hit. Second one is going to connect. And 3 hits. No wide lens, but that's okay. Tsareena able to hit all 3. Okay, very nice. Yeah, I mean, I think we're in fantastic shape right now. The key thing in this matchup was we had to bring the right 4 Pokemon because Incineroar and Regieleki are so lackluster, whereas Tsareena, Kyogre, Tornadus, and Naganadel are so good. So this is where like team preview is really important, right? My opponent effectively lost a Pokemon for nothing. It's a free switching into Eternatus, but what does that really accomplish right now, right? So we've got Kyogre and Naganadel in the back. Obviously that's pretty good for us. I'm willing to just Icy Wind right now and go for another triple axle onto Eternatus. Grimmsnarl's not that scary. Like, yeah, you can set up screens, but it's basically it. It's actually Protect. Huh. Yeah, I have very little incentive to target Grimmsnarl because, first of all, it doesn't do that much damage, and 2, we have really reliable answers into it with Kyogre and Naganadel in the back. And I think the upside of this Tornadus is that Icy Wind actually does nice chip damage onto anything that it hits for super effective. Axel hit 1. 2 hits. Very luckily for us, we hit every triple axle so far to start the game, so 6 for 6 on that. And there's Sludge Wave. Okay, that's pretty neat. Sludge Wave is interesting. I would not have expected that given their team composition, because there's nothing that can really take it super well right next to it. And their Life Orb. Okay. Now, the key thing that I want to be a little bit aware of is potentially getting another Tailwind up in this game. Oh, they have Lucario. That makes sense. So what I can do here is Protect and U-turn out. And then just switch Tornadus out into Tsareena the subsequent turn. Because at this point, Kyogre's looking pretty good. Eternatus is 1 hit away from fainting. I guess I could have just gone Icy Wind Power Whip here. Actually switch Eternatus out. Okay. Into Rillaboom. Makes sense. And so this is the other reason I want to conserve the Tsareena, because if Tsareena is conserved, my opponent can't even go for Grassy Glides onto Kyogre. But you can see now Naganadel's in a really good late game, end game, right? Where it just has super effective damage into everything. Okay, so we'll U-turn here. It's likely going to be a Spirit Break coming out from my opponent right now, but that's fine. I'll just let them Spirit Break Naganadel. And then the next turn we can just switch Tornadus out into the Tsareena and Sludge Bomb. Ah, it's Lash Out. Okay, this is actually really similar to the really similar to the Grimmsnarl Eternatus team we had previously featured. So that's pretty cool. And because they have the Protect on Grimmsnarl, that actually makes things a little bit trickier for us, interestingly enough. Anyway, I'm down to switch Tornadus out into Tsareena right now. It's a very obvious switch, but it just ensures we get another Tailwind up in this game. And I'm willing to just Sludge Bomb into Rillaboom right now. I will say, though, I think my opponents played the last 2 turns really nicely. Kind of felt like it was over after turn 1, but I feel like they've brought themselves back into a better position. Oh, Rillaboom's the one that has Protect here. Okay, very interesting. And they try to Thunder Wave. Nice. Yeah, this is actually very similar to the Grimmsnarl set then from the Togedemaru team. Because that was Splash Out, T-Wave, Superpower, Protect, if I remember correctly. But that also means then that you're not Assault Vested on Rillaboom, so Sludge Bomb might just KO you. Going Peter's out, but that's fine. I mean, Power Whip into Grimm is tempting, but it's really Rillaboom that we need to eliminate right now. So I'm down to just triple Axle it and Sludge Bomb it right now. I wonder if Sludge Bomb's just a one-hit KO. I would think Rillaboom survives, but I'm not 100% sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah, without Assault Vest, that's actually just a one-shot. And that just secures the game, because obviously we can just bring out Tornadus, Tailwind, and then Kyogre Water Spout. But it was closer than I actually expected it to be after how turn 1 played out. So kudos to them. I think they made some really good plays. And one thing that was really critical here was that we had a really good lead. Tsareena Tornadus was actually quite solid offensively. It's rare for that to be the case, but my opponent's restricted Pokemon being weak to Ice is very beneficial for us. And Naganadel even hangs on. So, yeah. We just had so many win conditions in this game that I think it was pretty tough for my opponent. The main thing they needed to do was basically eliminate Tsareena so that the Rillaboom can just Grassy Glide everything in the end game. And that's why I was actually getting a little bit nervous, because I felt like they had positioned themselves pretty nicely to potentially actually set themselves up for that end game. Because of course, Kyogre is nice, but it gets demolished by Rillaboom if you don't manage to, yeah, if you don't manage to have Tsareena, or you don't manage to control the terrain, and can't control the terrain here. So with Torn and Kyogre in the back, Eternatus is one attack away from fainting, so if it attacks, it will just faint. So it's very fine here to just go for a U-turn onto Eternatus and a Sludge Bomb onto Grimm. You can see how good Naganadel synergizes with Kyogre in this matchup though, right? Once again, a lot of the things that Kyogre doesn't like going against, Naganadel matches up pretty well into. For example, Regieleki can't do much damage with its electric type attacks. Rillaboom, completely walled by Naganadel. Maybe if you're running high horsepower on Rillaboom, you have some answer, but so many Rillabooms right now are fake out, U-turn, knockoff, Grassy Glide. It's kind of tough to slot in high horsepower, so more often than not, you're not going to be running that. And Sludge Bomb gets another KO. And the key thing here is that Tsareena just makes my, like, I don't even need to predict, right? It just covers for any option. The key thing is my opponent needed to basically knock out Tsareena on a switch in potential. Eternatus will Sludge Wave here, but at its own life. So, yeah, ultimately we just had a really good lead, and the lack of Protect on Landorus-I turn 1 made things even easier. If they'd protected, it would have been pretty interesting, because then you do get the free switch into Eternatus, and then Icy Wind plus the triple Axle actually wouldn't have knocked it out, right? That plus the Life Orb proc combined is still enough to survive. So that was definitely a fun one. And yeah, I think Eternatus, like I said, kind of underplayed actually at the moment where I was expecting to see it more, but overall a fun first game here. And I think normally with Kyogre, I'd be pretty nervous into Eternatus, but this team is well composed and has the Tornadus and the Tsareena and the Naganadel. So the, you know, we have answers into the Eternatus, right? Because actually we have 4 Pokemon that can actually hit it for super effective damage, despite it not looking amazing. And then Naganadel, like I said, such a big win con where it's like if we set up Trick Room, or sorry, Tailwind, and they can't deny us Tailwind if I lead Tsareena plus Tornadus, right? That's the beauty of Sereena's ability. It just blocks those fake outs, and my opponent had multiple fake out users, the Grimm, the Rillaboom, the Incineroar. So being able to block those fake outs to guarantee Tailwind was super important, because they were obviously going to try to just outpace us with Eternatus. And so as soon as we get that Tailwind up early, we're in really good shape. So yeah, fun way to get started, and let's keep going. All right, next one here, and there's a Pincurrchin, as well as an Yveltal. Okay. Very interesting. How good is Naganadel here? Does Sludge Bomb have Sludge Bomb into Whimsicott, Draco? But they don't have like an Amoonguss. I'm not sure I love it here. Aleki with Thunder, honestly, is what I'm mainly looking at. If you're my opponent, what do you go with? I would just drop the fire types, because obviously they're pretty bad into Kyogre. So, like, Whim, Yveltal, Gastrodon, and Pincurrchin. Whim, Yveltal. Well, Kyogre's gonna get outsped. I'm down for Tornadus plus Aleki. Like, Tornadus, Kyogre definitely come out in this game, as well as Aleki, so those 3 are no debate. I feel like Incineroar has very little to offer us here, and Tsareena seems like the obvious 4th, just because of how well it matches up into Gastrodon. But Naganadel is a little bit interesting because of its damage output into Yveltal and Whimsicott. I think I have to bring Tsareena though, because I actually really lack damage in a Gastrodon otherwise, because it completely walls a Lecky. Kyogre is forced to use Ice Beam. Tornadus can Hurricane it for decent damage, but Tsareena's just way too consistent to not bring here, I think. It also is triple Axle into Whimsicott and Yveltal, right? So, yeah. I'm glad I get to use Tsareena a little bit more, because when we use Santi's team, I feel like I barely brought it, mainly because like Weavile often was so good, and I think what Santi's team did really well was that even just having Tsareena in team preview, because you have Scarf Kyogre, you don't even really need to bring in, your opponents are going to be more scared of it immediately. So it's going to be Whimsicott plus Gastrodon, which I'm okay with. I mean, turn 1, it's pretty easy for us to just protect Tornadus, switch Regieleki out into Tsareena, I think. We could get like Volt Switch Whimsicott, but I really don't need to get greedy here, I think, because like what if Whimsicott protects and they just Earth Power Regieleki? That's a disaster for us. And it's like, is breaking a Focus Sash on Whimsicott very important here? First of all, we don't even know if they have it, even though that is typically the most common item. But even if they have it, it's like, well, you know, it's not like I need to knock out Whimsicott ASAP right now. But the other cool thing is, like, even if they Tailwind here and they have Taunt on Whimsicott, well, Tsareena just blocks any Prankster attacks from the Whimsicott, right? So I don't even have to worry about a Taunt in terms of them, you know, Tailwinding first or taunting us and then going for speed control. That can sometimes be tricky. And yep, there's the Protect. So it's exactly why we did not want to Volt Switch. Perfect. And now what I can do is probably just Icy Wind and Triple Axle into Whimsicott. Oh, but they've got Yawn. Okay. That does make things pretty interesting here, honestly. Because you can keep cycling in Yawns with Gastrodon. So the question here, I'm going to Icy Wind first, is does Gastrodon Protect here? Because me switching out seems really obvious. They can nail the switch. And the thing is, I'm actually pretty intrigued in just staying in here. Because if we knock out the Gastrodon, they're just in terrible shape. And I think like me switching out here seems fairly obvious that I could see them staying. Would they really risk it though? You're just throwing away a huge win condition if you do that. I'll go out in a Kyogre. Like, even if they go for another Yawn, it's not even that bad because they are not putting on offensive pressure. I wanted to Power Whip there and make like a gut read, but I don't think it's worth it right now, especially if they like pivot Gastro out into Yveltal. Yawn does make this a lot harder for us though, honestly. And Gastrodon does Protect. Okay, perfect. It's also good to confirm they have Protect because I wasn't 100% sure whether or not they'd be carrying that. Whimsicott actually just opts for Moonblast into Kyogre. Okay, that's a pretty good play. Because it does drop my special attack substantially. Meaning, I can't really spam Water Spouts very easily. I should have led Tsareena, honestly, but yeah, it's kind of hard to feel confident with that into my opponent's team comp. Okay, obviously I can Tailwind here, but Whimsicott Protecting feels fairly Whimsicott Protecting feels fairly likely. I almost want to just Hurricane and Ice Beam Gastro. Because if I were my opponent, I'd Protect Whim and Yawn. I'd Protect Whim or Tailwind. I would never attack with Whimsicott here because you can't afford to lose Whimsicott while not getting speed control up. And we don't necessarily need a Tailwind right now. The issue is if my opponent actually doubles up onto Tornadus with Moonblast plus Scald. That actually might be enough for a KO, so that could be an issue. This was me making somewhat of a prediction and probably not making the 100% best play. Okay, one switches out. That's fine. And they actually brought Entei. Interesting. Okay. So no Pincurrchin, which makes sense. You don't want to boost Regieleki's damage output. Nice damage from Hurricane. And we get a Confusion. Okay. That's super good. Kyogre is going to get an Ice Beam off into this as well. Nice damage. Freeze. Let's see if they attack. Fusion. They do manage to attack, but they did not go for a Yawn. It's actually just going to be a Scald. And I think that's totally okay with me. They're leftovers as well. Okay. I think here it's probably best to just Tailwind, and I am just going to go for the Water Spout. I know there's a Gastrodon out on the field, but it's already taken a lot of damage. We've seen Scald, Yawn, Protect. Recover as the fourth makes sense, but this thing doesn't have Rindo Berry, so Tsareena will just one-shot it later on in the game. And if I'm my opponent, I'm contemplating protecting Gastrodon or even switching out right now. And even if Water Spout doesn't KO Entei because they're Assault Vested, that's fine. It's a huge amount of damage, and I don't like going up against Entei when I have a Tsareena in the back. So just dealing a huge chunk to it right now is pretty good for us, I would say. Really cool team, though. And the Pincurrchin is the main thing I'm curious about, but unfortunately we don't get to see it come out in this one. Okay, so they don't protect the Gastrodon. That's fine. I have to cover for Scarf Entei too, right? Mainly curious on Gastrodon's fourth. Is it Earth Power, Ice Beam, or Recover? Or none of those. I would think it's one. But Entei does survive, impressively enough. Okay. He goes for Snarl. Like, surely you're Assault Vested then, right? Okay, that's fine. If Gastrodon manages to attack through Confusion here. It goes for Yawn. In my opinion, that's actually the best case scenario. And the reason is because I take no damage on Kyogre for the turn effectively. Now, I don't think Hurricane plus Ice Beam actually KOs Gastro. But Entei's AV, so we have a very free Hurricane into that slot. The key thing to note is I have 3 turns of Tailwind. They can easily scald my Tornadus slot right now. I think Kyogre switching out here into Tsareena is pretty safe. I think here I am willing to just Hurricane into Entei and switch Kyogre out into Tsareena. Even if they manage to get speed control... actually, I don't know. The thing is, we could probably guarantee a second Tailwind in this game if I protect Tornadus this turn. And I guess Tsareena isn't really at risk of like fainting, and like that their odds of them going for Sacred Fire into the Tsareena switch-in slot relatively slim, and even if they were to, we would survive. So yeah, I'm actually not sure this was the right play. I think it would have been better to protect Tornadus to guarantee another Tailwind up, because I would think here they scald into Tornadus. Okay, so let's see if they attack their Confusion this time. They keep going for Yawn, but in my opinion, that's fine, because like you're not doing damage right now. So you're putting on the pressure, but I already picked up a knockout onto the biggest threat to Tsareena, and your Gastrodon is still relatively low in terms of health. It is obnoxious though, I have to say, and yeah, even though, you know, like, yeah, so Tornadus comes, or sorry, Yveltal comes out right now. This turn's interesting. It's like, do you just protect Gastrodon again? That's what they did earlier. We have U-turn on Tsareena, which is a pretty safe play to make. I mean, I want to Power Whip super badly, but I don't think it makes much sense here. Gastrodon is a pain to deal with, though, I have to say. Especially after Tornadus got snarled, I can't Hurricane, and unfortunately for us, we haven't had any Confusion rolls. I could also just protect and Triple Axle here. Alright, I'm not on Protect U-turn. Yveltal with Snarl and Oblivion Wing going to be a pain. Yeah, Gastro does protect though, so that's good that like both times I was reading into them potentially not protecting, but yeah. They Sucker Punch. Oh, I guess they were reading me into switching out the Yveltal, or sorry, switching out the Tsareena rather than U-turning. That makes sense. The thing is, then, do you not have Earth Power on the Yveltal? Sorry, Earth Power on the Yveltal. Yeah, Earth Power on the Regieleki. Because they haven't gone for that once, but, like, surely you do, because that's just by far the best answer into Regieleki. Okay. They're AV on Entei, by the way, right? Meaning, like, you can't be Assault Vested on the Yveltal. Range stops, too, so I'm not sure I love the way I timed that. If I had to guess, it's Life Orb Yveltal. But the thing is, I can just switch Tornadus out now into... I guess I could go for a Flying type attack into this slot. Yeah, dealing with this Gastrodon is a pain, especially because it has Protect. I just want to confirm it's fourth, because if it doesn't have Earth Power, Regieleki just puts us in a really good late game position. I'm going to switch out an Ice Beam. It's also the Yawns making this so much more difficult, because I'm more or less forced to switch out every turn. Could have just gone for Triple Axle earlier, too. Okay, they don't Protect, they don't switch. Huge amounts of damage from Ice Beam. Oh, and we freeze. They were Policy too, wow. That's obviously a game-changing freeze, and unfortunately, they stay frozen. Wow. And they target Tsareena. It's actually still very possible for them to win though, right? Because like you could just thaw out and outspeed both of my Pokemon right now. I'm really curious what they were going for that turn, because if it was like a Dark Pulse and it was a KO, that'd actually be amazing, because then we would just get Tornadus back in and then Tailwind, but they're in a really tricky position right now. It's still not over though, despite the freeze, because you could just thaw out right now. Tsareena is drowsy. So intense, even with the freeze. This isn't a good play. I went for Power Up Ice Beam, but if they thaw with Yveltal, yeah, they protected Gastrodon is a great play. Let's see if they thaw out. They don't. Yeah, I don't love this game because quite frankly, because they were policy and yeah, like the freeze just completely changes the game, and to be honest, freeze feels like the worst mechanic in the game. So yeah, I mean, it happens, and I think like the upside for us is we had more potential for RNG because we were attacking before our opponent in this game. But yeah, they managed to get their Yveltal out in a pretty good position, and had they gone for like Oblivion Wing that turn, it would have been really close. Because if you knock out the Tsareena there, I would get the free switch into Tornadus, and then I can just click Tailwind plus Ice Beam. But obviously the freeze just completely wins us the game immediately. So I honestly want to say that if the freeze didn't happen, my opponent had a very good shot at winning. Like, I would favor their position more than mine. And this Gastrodon with Yawn was just such a pain to deal with, honestly. And I think we brought the better Pokemon in like the best four, I think. I'm not sure I can really slot in Incineroar. Naganadel makes a little bit of sense. We just never saw an Earth Power from this Gastrodon. That's the main thing I'm curious about. I'm not sure he even has it, to be honest. But yeah. I mean, I can just Ice Beam Whimsicott now. But that's like obviously doesn't feel great. And I didn't respect the policy enough, but I don't know if I can. Like, I have to damage it, and yeah, Yawn Gastrodon is just so nice into like the combo of, and they did have Earth Power. Okay, yeah, I was like, it just makes so little sense to be running Gastrodon in this format without Earth Power, right? Because it's like you wall a Lecky, but it's like if you don't have Earth Power, you don't actually threaten it offensively with damage, so that would just be pretty surprising to me. They're probably gonna Moonblast the Kyogre slot now. Or just protect here. A Lecky is actually pretty useless, so we can actually swap out the Kyogre into a Lecky the next turn. But we're just waiting for Tsareena to wake up at this point, because they can't beat Tsareena, especially without Ice Beam on Gastrodon. So, yeah. But I have to say, like, I didn't realize just how much trouble their, like, weakness policy Yveltal plus Gastrodon is really nice into Lorraine Core. Mainly because the Yveltal covers for a lot of the Gastrodon's weaknesses, which is often coming from, like, Rillaboom, for example, right? And just, like, grass types like Tsareena. So if you're looking for a core to start building around against rain teams, I think Yveltal plus Gastrodon from this game, especially with the Yawn specifically. Like, if my opponent doesn't have Yawn, it's not that difficult of a matchup because I'm not forced to constantly switch out and back in. But because they have Yawn and Protect and Leftovers, and the Entei hanging out with the Sliver was a big deal as well, right? Because if Entei faints there, you don't get that Snarl off, and then I can most likely just double up onto the Gastrodon with the Hurricane Ice Beam for a KO the subsequent turn. And so the margins were really razor thin here. And in the end, it'll probably be a 4-0, but like I said, I do think it was a lot closer than that. And yeah, I really want to know who Yveltal was targeting that turn and what move it was going for. They do have to get that turn, like, not correctly, but, you know, there's a lot, like, it's still completely winnable even after activating policy. My main question is whether or not they went for Oblivion Wing that turn to heal themselves, because then it would have just mitigated all the damage that we did and then would probably put them in a very, very good position. So yeah, I think, like, I didn't respect weakness policy Yveltal enough, and we got bailed out by a freeze, but yeah, I'm not sure where I have room to play significantly better. I guess, like, that's the thing that frustrates me a little bit, because, like, I can't find a turn, at least off the top of my head, where I'm like, oh, that was just, like, a terrible play. I had a clearly better play. It's just like, yeah, this lefty's Yawn Gastrodon plus weakness policy Yveltal is like really nice into the Rain Core. I guess Incineroar could have been brought out for Fake Out and Parting Shot cycling, but doesn't feel that good. What I will say is, even though I can't find, like, major better plays during the game, I can tell you what I immediately could have led with, which was just Tornadus plus Tsareena, because that would have pressured out Gastrodon immediately, and Tsareena was really good into both of those because I can triple Axle and Power Whip. Now, what they probably would have done was switch into Entei, and then Protect, right? But even if you do that, well, then I can just pivot on into Kyogre the subsequent turn. So it was really starting from the lead. My lead wasn't super good, and my opponent outled me, and it was mainly because I just didn't really respect the yawn on the Gastrodon. So yeah, even though that was a win, I think my opponent played that well. And yeah, like I said, I think if the freeze doesn't happen, or if they thaw out either of those turns, they're actually in a pretty good spot. So yeah, Yveltal does like do pretty well, honestly, into Kyogre, and there are a lot of different Yveltal sets. Life Orb, Black Glasses, Weakness Policy, AV. Policy was probably the worst one for us to go up against, and I should have thought about that more, but I also had no way to damage it otherwise, so I think like what I should have done was maybe knock out Gastrodon sooner than later, but between Leftovers, Protect, and Yawn, and us getting Snarled, I wasn't confident on picking up a KO onto it, even if we like constantly doubled up into it after the Snarl. But if like, that was a long game, so I gotta rewatch it. But yeah, maybe there was an opportunity for us to just double up onto it for a KO, and then go from there. But yeah, fun first 2 games here, so let's look for one more. Third match of the day. What in the world? We're gonna lose to this. And I'm okay with that, because this team is wild. There's a Lopunny, a Golduck, which probably is Cloud9, an Indeedee female, a Shedinja, and a Regidrago. Oh boy. I'm just like, I don't know what to do here. There's probably some really crazy strategies, but even the Golduck alone invalidating Rain scares me in itself. Shedinja's scary, but we do have 4 Pokemon that can hit it for super effective, so that's at least a little bit helpful. It's also a Indeedee male. Scarf expanding. Yeah. What's the lead I'm expecting? They could try to set up Trick Room. You could go Calyrex plus Golduck. Not a phrase I ever thought I'd be saying here. The weird thing is, like, do I need Tornadus for Tailwind? Maybe. Like, they are kind of in that weird mid-tier speed range. I kind of want to go Incineroar, Tsareena, Naganadel plus Kyogre. You could probably argue for Tornadus over Naganadel. And I guess it's a little bit risky for me to not bring Tailwind here, because I don't know how fast they are. I don't know what sets they're running here. I mean, they're just using a lot of unconventional Pokemon, but to be honest, like, the Golduck and the Shedinja make me really scared. Now, the upside is that the Tsareena actually has payback, so we can actually hit Shedinja, which is pretty valuable for us. Lopunny plus Calyrex-I. I mean, I can fake out into Calyrex turn 1. I don't know what Lopunny's really going to do here. Circle Throw. Some way to activate a policy, maybe. I guess I could just fake out, like, double up onto Lopunny. Does, like, fake out Power Whip KO? I would think so, actually. Now, they could bring in Indeedee, but that'd be okay, I think. If Calyrex doesn't have a policy activated, then I feel okay. I'm going to double up onto Lopunny, because I just don't know what this thing is going to do right now. This team is wild, though. It's really cool. And once again, yeah, like, my opponent has the element of surprise, where they're using so many unconventional Pokemon right now. But they're not going to switch out, so I'll get the fake out off. I'm not sure Power Whip gets this knockout, though. Looks decent. Like, it took that fake out pretty well. Yeah, it survives with the Sliver. Just go for Glacial Lance. I don't love that. Okay. If we got that knockout, I think that's that turn 1's worth it. But because we don't, I don't think it's. Now, I can pivot Tsareena out into Kyogre right now. I honestly want to just Parting Shot here and go out into Kyogre. Because then I can Parting Shot into Naganadel and then just, like, Sludge Bomb Water Spout. Pretty nice bulk from Lopunny though. I really thought we'd just pick up the KO onto it because Power Whip does a lot of damage, but yeah, not bad. Ah, okay, it's after you. Well, glad I switched Tsareena out there. They just go for Glacial Lance, that's fine. Okay. Get the shot off. Water Spout's looking pretty good from Kyogre right now. Now, the issue with switching into Naganadel is they might just go for Glacial Lance. They're at -2 though, I don't think it'd KO us, right? I'd be surprised if it did. I kind of want to just Draco Meteor here on Water Spout into this bad boy. Alright, that's what I'm going to opt for. I do think Naganadel is probably better than Tornadus in the context of this game, because Tornadus doesn't offer us as much damage. Now, okay, I was going to say you could switch out the Calyrex. What is that, Shedinja? Are they protecting Calyrex? Okay, they don't protect, that's good. So this is where having Tsareena and Incineroar and Naganadel is useful, because I have like 3 things that deal large amounts of damage. By large amounts of damage, I mean 1 HP to the Shedinja, but that's all that we need, right? Could have gone for Scald there, fish for a burn. A KO? Nice. Okay, that's great. Fantastic. Golduck, Indeedee, I would think is in the back, but this Shedinja isn't really that scary because I still have 3 Pokemon can hit you for super effective damage. I guess the downside is that Tsarena's taking some damage, but it's okay. They bring that out. I'm just gonna... if I go into Tsareena, I block any Prio attacks, but like, it doesn't really matter. I don't want this thing to Swords Dance in front of me, so I don't want to just double protect for no reason. I'm down to just Flamethrower and Scald here, honestly. And this is one reason why I wanted to bring Naganadel. It's just a little, you know, it's more consistent into Tsareena. They're gonna fake out Kyogre, that's fine. Break your Sash on a Shedinja. What? What ability is it? What item is it running? If it's not Focus Sash. That's wild. I really want to view my opponent's team after this because I have no idea. Okay, we have to still be pretty careful because of a Regidrago sweep. Assuming they're Scarfed. So what we can do is just protect here, I think. Scald into... Actually, you know what I like? I like protecting here. I like switching out into Tsareena to sacrifice Tsareena, because Sareena's useless at this point. The main reason I brought it was for the early game pressure and to block fake out potentially from Lopunny. So we sack Tsareena, and this allows us to get a free switch into Incineroar, then I can just click fake out with it. Regidrago is so commonly specs or Scarfed here, so I expect one of the 2 items. But it's actually going to be neither. I don't know why I assume I know my opponent's items when they don't have Focus Sash Shedinja, which completely just changes everything. And they actually try to switcheroo into Naganadel. Wow. Okay. Well, even if you're like full Incense, it doesn't apply immediately during the turn. And so, I don't want to risk missing in this game. I'm down to just... okay. I mean, Lopunny's revealed, fake out after you... Switcheroo. Would it really run Protect as the 4th? I'm just trying to think of a way... Oh, wait, they also have After You. Does Lopunny outspeed us right now? No, if you did, you would have just attacked last turn, right? Right. That should have been Triple Axel into the... Yeah, they go for double Protect. That's fine, I think. That is their win combo, so yeah, well done. And it's probably Switcheroo full Incense here, but with Incineroar and Kyogre in the back, I feel okay. That's a little frustrating though. That gives them an opportunity to win. But that's their only win con, right? Like a Regidrago sweep, so kudos to them for identifying that. I think I just have to play my odds there. If we lose this because they got the double, I honestly won't feel bad at all because that previous game we got very lucky with that freeze. I'll just protect here. I'll triple Axel. Get the free switch into Incineroar, and then we can just go from there. Because Kyogre should outspeed the Drago here. They just Dragon Energy, yeah. I mean, this is what's a little bit scary right now. Drago does have Dragon Energy. It's probably Dragon type attack boosting item. Right? Life Orb doesn't make much sense. You're obviously not Specs or Scarfed. You can just go out into Incineroar right now. I mean, Kyogre should outspeed the Drago, right? And if we just Dragon Energy, or Ice Beam it once, your Dragon Energy just does substantially less damage. I'm just double checking our speed stat here, but I'm pretty sure it's just max speed Kyogre. Yeah. So, all we need to do is just get Kyogre in safely, so I can just switch out into Kyogre right now, and then go for Fake Out. This is a great example of my opponent playing towards their outs, though, right? Let's say my Kyogre is really slow and bulky, and Regidrago actually outspeeds. Well, then you actually have a very good shot at winning the game just by spamming Dragon Energy at this point in the game. I'm just trying to think if I had like 100% win con, thanks to like the ability to cycle fake outs and whatnot. But I think now we should just outspeed, right? So I can just Ice Beam and Parting Shot probably. Don't want to risk missing Snarl. Parting Shot allows me to get Naganadel in safely. Yeah, Ice Beam here should do like 50. Nice, more than that. 7. 5. And we get a freeze. I mean, I don't think the freeze in this one. Okay, good. They thought. I was gonna say, yeah, I really don't think that one matters. Their win con is to hope for Kyogre to be really slow for some reason, for Drago to outspeed and then crit Dragon Energy. But they play towards their outs, right? I always talk about why you shouldn't give up until it's 100% over, because you don't know your opponent's EV spreads always, right? More often than not, you don't know. And so you can leverage that towards your advantage. And so if we had slow Kyogre here, yeah, Drago could absolutely pull the comeback. Our team did not have any Dragon Resists or immunities. I'm just so curious about the item on the Calyrex. They didn't set up Trick Room in this game, and I think if they had Trick Room on Calyrex, things could have gotten a little bit dicey for us as well. But fortunately for us, that did not come out. So, yep, just be a double target here. That should be a KO. Fairly cool team, though. I really hope we can view our opponent's team after this one, because I'm just dying to find out. Yeah. Really info about the team. But Naganadel is a really fun Pokemon to bring today. We didn't even like go up against like Amoonguss or Xerneas. That's really where I think Naganadel shines. But it was just kind of a fun fourth Pokemon to bring into a lot of these matchups for decent damage output. So yeah. Okay, can't view that team unfortunately. But that was a really fun set of games. And so you can see how, you know, this Kyogre build is a little bit different. Santi's Kyogre team, which is probably the most meta dominant right now, had a bulkier Tornadus. This is Focus Sash with Icy Wind and Protect. Santi's, you know, obviously had Icy Wind as well. You have AV Tsareena rather than the Taunt Tsareena, and so that, you know, you have different moves in that. Kyogre with Mystic Water obviously does more damage than Kyogre with Choice Scarf when you're using your water type attacks, and so you can potentially leverage that towards your advantage as well. And then Naganadel was just a really fun Pokemon to bring into the matchups as well. So yeah. Game 2, I really wish I could have seen what my opponent was going to go for if we didn't get that freeze. And yeah, like I said, I honestly think they played and positioned their Yveltal really nicely. And so I needed to lead better in that game, because the Yawn Gastro was just so hard to deal with. So that was really interesting. But give me for this one. So thanks so much as always for watching. Check out details in the team in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all next time. All right. Peace.